Hey, pop stars, welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Thank you for joining us. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
This week's episode is sponsored by Bodyguard Protection Services. They protect you from everyone and anything that bothers you. Stalker, let them handle it. Bully, they're the anti-bully force. Allow them to get their hands dirty while keeping yours clean. They can also teach you how to truly protect yourself. Offer 20 offer 24/7 protection 365. Hit them up at bps.protect. Tammy, were you ever bullied or were you the bully?
I think I have been on the receiving end of being bullied or people thinking they were gonna bully me, but at the same time, I was a real good church girl when I was growing up. I know, it's so amazing to think of. So I had my church crew with me, and we were all West Indian, so don't mess with a whole bunch of West Indian people that hang out together. I'm just telling you right now, they're crazy. So ultimately no, but I have experienced it every once in a while, especially in middle school when I first moved to my new town that I grew up in. I was bullied because I had a very thick accent when I moved there.
Mm.
I got the best advice when I was bullied when I first moved there too.
What was it?
From a teacher. So I had a thick accent and you couldn't really understand everything I was saying. And so one of the girls kept picking on me and I went off, I cursed her out and I told her, leave me the F alone. And of course that made them laugh more because I said that with my accent. And she hit me. And I did what they tell kids to do, which I will never do again. I went and I told an adult. And I remember later when my teacher pulled me to the side and he said, one of my favorite teachers, he still remembers me to this day. He said, don't you ever let somebody hit you. He was like, if they hit you, you hit them back. That's self-defense. He was like, I don't ever want to hear that somebody hit you and you didn't hit them back, which is your right. And I said, well, okay then. And it's never happened again.
Yeah.
I thought that was great advice that I've always remembered since I was young. I was in fifth grade when he said that to me, and I've never forgotten it. And I've kind of kept it in my head the whole time.
Yeah. I think I would never consider myself a bully. I've been bullied. I don't know. I guess because I've always marched to the beat of my own drum.
Yeah.
And
That's usually
I didn't grow up to be, I didn't turn into a news junkie when I grew up. I've always, you know me, you know some of my weird idiosyncrasies. I didn't
I know what your
develop the
favorite book
habit.
is.
Huh?
I know what your favorite book is.
Right. I didn't just grow up and decide I like reading the dictionary of my favorite book. So that kind of stuff. And my mom being my mom, she said, don't start a fight, but you fucking finish it. If someone hits you, you knock them the fuck out. And she was like, you might lose. She was like, you might lose, but at least they'll think twice about coming at you again.
Yeah.
Fuck it. And she's like, and if their parents got something to say, then I'm like, oh shit.
And they want to deal with you before they got to deal with your mama.
Yeah. And it was either get your ass kicked out in the streets or get it kicked at home. I'm like, I'd rather get my ass kicked out in the streets.
Yeah.
I wasn't coming home. And it wasn't, hey, if I got beat up, my mom was gonna, but nah, if she found out someone hit me and I didn't do nothing back, then I was gonna get that ass whooping. So I was like, nah, I'd rather take it out in the streets. So, but in a weird twist of fate, I don't know, some of the people who bully me after because I have a fly mouth, that's always been there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would cut you down with my words, and they like, what?
Yes.
Did she just fucking insult us? Like, what the And so I ended up being friends with some of the people who started off trying to torment me and realized that it
Me
just
too.
doesn't work. you know it's like, because it's just like, I don't give a fuck, and really I would be like, I don't give a fuck. So it's just weird. And I guess that takes us into where we are this week. So this week we go on a revenge tour, almost 20 years in the making. Damn, that's a long time to hold a grudge. As a young woman, Moon Dong-eun, I know I fucked that up, finally puts her plan into motion to reclaim her life and dignity from those who tormented her throughout her high school years, while also giving them a taste of their own bitter medicine. As we talk about The Glory currently airing on Netflix. So, Tammy, what did you think of The Glory? Was it a glorious tale of justice or a bitter pill to swallow?
I would say both. And not bitter pill to swallow in like a negative way, but I will say that while it was a tough watch, in some scenes or some episodes, whole episodes were very, very, very tough to watch. Overall, it kept my interest from beginning to end. And it took me a minute to actually want to watch it. Because when it first came out, I'm not a fan of the actress, the lead actress. I'm not a fan of hers. I've seen another show that she's been in, which is actually one of my favorite shows. But even then, the emotions, like, it just doesn't come out too well for her. So I was kind of hesitant on watching it. And my mom watched it because, I got my mom all up in the K-dramas. And she was like, "Oh, have you watched The Glory?" Because she wanted to talk about it. And I was just like, "No, I don't know if I'm going to watch that." She's like, "Oh, no, you got to watch that." And I said, if my mom tells me to watch it, because she's an even tougher critic than I am when it comes to certain things, I was just like, okay, I got to sit down and watch this. First episode, hard watch, y'all. Oh. And I'm not saying like it was bad. I'm saying that it was tough to watch those scenes in the first episode, but it was so good. I couldn't turn away. And so I binge watched the first season, and yeah, and then I binge watched the second part as well. So yeah, ultimately it was a really, really good series. Surprised me on how good it is, seeing as how, I will say it again, not a fan of the lead actress.
Yeah, I agree with you. Not on the lead actress part because I don't know many. But I loved it, and I'm with you. I almost didn't watch it. Just because Korean bullying tales can be a bit tough to watch. Because they're so fucking brutal. And I'm like, and this one is a revenge tale. And so I'm gonna say, Netflix, you didn't do yourself any favors with the synopsis, especially for those of us who have watched several Korean dramas and know the bullying and know that the bullying is so real. We have a bullying problem here, yes. But in Korea, like the shit that you see on TV,
It's a whole different
it
sphere, y'all.
it's a drop in the pan or a drop in
Yeah,
the bucket compared to what actually really happens there.
we got
Um,
nothing on.
and the way they deal with it or don't deal with it. So um yeah, it was, so I almost didn't watch it. And then I think what happened is one day after we recorded, there was nothing else on and I was like, okay, I can just turn it on. And of course I turned it on with the dubs. But even when I dub, and which is the best thing that's happened to K dramas because you know me and my multitasking self. Um, I even though I dub it, I still have on the captions, and I'm like, and it drives me crazy when you see the differences between the English dubs and what's actually in the captions. I'm like, no, but anyway, and sometimes the dubs are better, sometimes the dubs are worse, but I digress. Um, so I put it on. I'm thinking, okay, I'm just gonna do this while I finish working on some stuff, and I ended up watching the whole thing in that one sitting. I think I put it on about 6, and it was probably about 2 or 3 before I finished. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do one more episode. I'm gonna do one more episode. And before I knew it, I watched the whole thing. And I agree with you. Parts of it were bitter pills to swallow, just because it was so fucking brutal, and just so tough to see what happened. Um, and I alluded earlier that 20 years is a long time, but when you realize the scars that these weren't just emotional and mental scars that she was carrying around with her. She had physical scars on God, how much of her body would you say they burned?
All but where her panties and her bra was.
Yeah. So she had scars on 95% of her bodies from like curling irons and cigarettes. And um, so it was every time she took off her clothes, it was a reminder of what the fuck happened to her in high school. She ended up having to leave high school. And you realize that this goes so much further than bullying because it actually throws. We were just talking offline about how you start off with one thing in a Korean drama sometimes, and it totally flips you on the loop. So it goes from
Mm-hmm.
a bullying story, which is central, but it also becomes a murder mystery. Um, and so it was just so much. So you kind of understand why over 20 years she wasn't able to let it go and she went to the extremes that she went to. And sometimes it I think we were talking earlier about sometimes you just need to say you're sorry and own up to it. And we're not all the same people that we were when we were in high school or middle school. Um, but these motherfuckers, they hadn't changed at all. Like
They
they
never
were
had to.
horrible pieces of shit in middle school or in high school, and they grew up to be horrible pieces of shit.
They never had to. They like, and you know what this reminded me of, and it's way less intense. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you finished? I didn't want to
Oh
cut you
yeah,
off.
you're good.
Oh, okay. So when I was watching it, and I said this when you remember True Beauty, when we reviewed True Beauty, and in the first episode of True Beauty, is the bullying scenes. And the bullying scenes I thought was just too much. Like, and they were just throwing food at her and insulting her, verbally abusing her, emotionally abusing her. And then all they did really physically is they just, would pour food on her. Not saying that, that's not serious, but I'm just saying. And so and I still can't watch that first episode. When I rewatch that, because it's one of my favorite K series, when I rewatch it, I never go back to the first episode. I always skip the first episode because I just can't watch that. It hurts my heart every time watching that scene. And this, oh my gosh, like True Beauty is a picnic compared to the intensity of the bullying scenes, which are based on realistic things. Like what I didn't realize until because while you read a lot of the news and everything like that, I'm like all up in like entertainment news. And now I'm in the rabbit hole of Korean entertainment and everything like that. And I see where they said this was based on realistic events, on real events that have happened in the past. When people are like, oh no, they're over exaggerating it. No, this is not an over exaggeration. Like these are actual stories where there have been teenagers who were burned with curling irons and burned with cigarettes by their classmates, and their teachers knew and did nothing about it. And it was continuously over years of them being abused, sexually abused. And I was just like, I can't, like the tears. And I said, I'm not an emotional person necessarily, but like I had to pause a couple times because like the tears would well up and I would just feel so heartbroken over what this girl went through by these fucking assholes that you just want to kill. Oh my God. But it was really, really intense. It was very realistic on the scenes. Because like you said before, Korea does have a bullying problem. It's one of the while in America, what would you say? Would it be like drunk driving and like would drunk driving still be like one of our major things in like teen pregnancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
In America for teenagers?
Yeah.
Okay. So like yeah, so that those are like our major issues. It would be like drunk driving. I think drug abuse is definitely moving up the list. But in Korea, what I've read is that bullying, which a lot of times leads to suicide, and suicide is like one of the major issues in Korea, whether you're an adult or a teenager. Like, and we saw that scene a couple times in the show, but yeah, it was it was very hard to watch the beginning. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I was ride or die with that woman from the jump. Like when she came back and she said it took her 18 years to make it where she was, and she was gonna take them all down. I was cheering her. I was clapping for her. I was trying to give her some advice on what she needed to do. Like I was all in because everything that she gave them, once you watch the series, they deserved every single lick of it. Like some people were saying, oh, it was too harsh what she did to Jaejun, which was the main bully guy, the rich one. It was too harsh what she did to him, or it was too harsh what she did with Sarah. And I was just like, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I said, you need to go back and watch you need to go back and watch episode 1. It was, I'm sorry. It was crazy. Like I was just like, I couldn't. Like I was like, you know what?
I
Never.
mean, and I'm generally not eye for an eye, but the way she did it is basically that they destroyed themselves. They were their
Yes.
own
And they
downfall.
destroyed each other. They destroyed each
And
other.
and I so I well, before I go there, when you said that it was basically based on real stuff, is it because based on the director's experiences? Because you told me
No.
the director was a bully. Is that something that
Yeah,
just
he
kind of
acknowledged
accidentally came
that.
out, or?
No. It the storyline, the writer, because the writer is different from the director. So the
Mm-hmm.
writer based it off of stories, news articles,
News articles?
of actual real events, of like actual bullying, situations that have happened. I think one of them is from the 80s. I think it was the burning with the curling iron. That came from like the late 80s, early 90s. But she just kind of, I think like she just read up on these stories, these bullying stories, and kind of just made her show. The foundation was on real events. And then, you escalated, but yeah,
Yeah.
for the revenge part, you escalated. But the actual bullying, that's stuff that has really happened. That's been
Yeah.
reported.
Well, fact is often stranger than fiction. But I it was like um because they have a high suicide rate in Korea, and a lot of it has to do with bullying. And we see that here, especially among our trans youth, or our LGBTQ plus youth who are bullied. They, a lot of them, unfortunately, end up taking their lives. And so um, and what was believed to have been a suicide in this actually turns out to have been murder. And and that story becomes a central part of it. And that's just to show you, and that happened when they, not justifying murder at any rate or any stage in life, but this happened when they were kids, when they were still in high school, when they were younger, before they even started bullying, before their attention turned to the main character. And that was the thing about these kids. When I say they were human pieces of shit, it's like they changed out people to bully, like they had them on rotation. So it wasn't enough to think, oh, this one girl died, whether quote unquote accidentally or anything about that. Even before they all realized that it was a murder that took place, which we're going to get into that a little bit later. It's like, I'm sorry. I just have that thing in me where if I had done something that had played a role directly in someone's suicide, that would kind of fuck me up, where I think, shit, I need to change my ways. But like you said, there was no rhyme or reason behind them bullying. It's not like they had tough home lives or anything like that. They were all spoiled, pampered, and they did it because they knew that they could get away with it. Excuse
Yeah.
me, my throat was dry. Sorry. Young Jun's mom was going to cover it up regardless. She was one of the ones who paid Moon Do-Young's mom. I'm just going to call her Moon because I'm not going to sit here and mess up the girl's name the woman's name the entire
Oh,
episode.
Moon.
Oh, But she paid Moon-young to get her to leave school, even though she knew her daughter was at fault and didn't care. And that's just how callous they were. Um, so, but one of the things I loved in the story as we progress, like as far as the storytelling mechanism goes, I love how we saw it in flashbacks sporadically. Like I was, because that was one of the things is like I don't want to watch a whole 8 episodes of this person being bullied like this. So I love how they use how it was told using the flashback mechanism, because what we saw was brutal enough. So it would be parts of the episode to fill in the information that we needed. Just like how we saw what happened to her after she left high school, how she did work, and she ended up having to get her GED because her mom was also a piece of shit. Her mom was an addict who didn't want or need any, felt like she didn't want anyone's help, wouldn't accept anyone's help, didn't think she had a problem, but she was a horrible mother, and we'll talk about that too. But um, so I loved how they told the past um, that way in those stories, instead of giving us the first full eight episodes being from beginning to end about her past. I think that would have been too much because it was a lot. Um, so I'm not always a big fan of the flashback. Sometimes it can be overused or used incorrectly, but I think they did it perfectly with this, and the way it was done throughout the entire series to help fill in those missing gaps,
I,
but keep us present. I'm sorry.
no, I agree.
Um, and I love how everyone and everything in this story turned out to be connected. Like her landlady, how they had that secret history that she wasn't quite aware of. But she couldn't figure out how she was always so nice to her until the very end. Like, then she went to her, like, why are you charging me less for this nicer apartment than you're charging everybody else? Why is my electricity less? And when she tried to cover for her when her crackhead mom came to find her. So I was like, oh, what is, you couldn't figure it out, but I loved their connection. I loved Hurley and Lady. Um, but my favorite relationship that Moon had was with Mrs. Kang. Mrs. Kang was a G, and she was ride or die. Like, I love Mrs. Kang.
She was. I love the actress too.
Yeah. What else has she been in? Like, I recognized her.
I don't
Was
think it'd
she
be anything that you've seen.
was she the lady from that zombie, not
Oh
the
no,
zombie.
she's from the Uncanny Counter.
Yeah. Was she the lady in the uncanny counter?
Yeah,
That was her?
yeah, that was
Okay.
her.
So yeah,
I
I
was
was
like,
like,
wait a minute. Yeah, you've seen that. Yeah, she was in Uncanny Counter. Ooh, you want to hear a fun fact?
what?
Since you just said Uncanny Counter, this is my great segue. So Uncanny Counter 2, Uncanny Counter 2 is currently being filmed. It's going to premiere in the second half of the year. And the actress who plays Sora, you know who that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one who ended up becoming blonde. So I was just reading a random article, and so I was like, "Oh, shoot!" I wrote it down. So she's going to be in Uncanny Counter. So the blonde hair that you see at the end is her actual blonde hair because she was currently in the middle of filming both series at the same time. So throughout the Glory series, she had to wear a wig in order to cover up her blonde hair because that was her hair for the Uncanny Counter. So she said she was like going back and forth. She was like, that's a wig the whole time. She was like, but at the end when you see my blonde hair, she's like, that's my blonde hair because she's playing a demon in the show. So she had like that ugly blonde hair, which was so ugly. I was like, oh my God, the damage to your hair. But anyway,
Okay.
sorry. So
I
I was
know.
just interesting because now they're both playing in the series, you know, and sorry, it's just an
Yeah.
interesting fact.
The blonde hair fit because of who she was. Like Sarah, she was the artist and the drug addict, and also out there way bad on those drugs. And um, it 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 made her sympathetic to a point. When you realize that the drugs were not the reason why she was a bitch, that she was just a bitch. And the drugs were probably what made her actually
Amplified
tolerable.
it. Mhm.
Huh?
The drugs amplified it. It
Yeah.
didn't.
The drug abuse, but it amplified the fact that she was a bitch, but it's also what made her sympathetic to a point. Um,
You.
it kind of made you think, like I said, to a point. Initially, you think, oh, okay, well, she's an addict. You know, she has a problem. Then you realize, like, oh, that's just an excuse. Like, she doesn't want help. And when everybody just tries to cover all the shit up, and I'm like, yeah, no. So, initially I was like, okay, but yeah, after a while, I was like, nah. Like I said, there's only so much you can do. It gets to a point where it becomes a crutch and it's not even an excuse or a reason anymore. It's just like, look, um, but yeah, Mrs. King, she was the epitome of ride or die. I loved her. And I also, what was her husband's name? What was Young Jin's husband name?
Who?
Young
Oh,
Jin,
it was. Wait. I wrote it down. Hold on. It was. Oh, Do Young.
Do Young. Okay, so I had them. I had him, and I wrote it down. Um, I wrote it down backwards. So I loved her relationship with Joe Young. Um, and part of me, I was hoping, like, there was a part of me that was hoping he would be in game. And I was like, that would be the perfect fuck you to Young Jin, was to end up with her husband raising her daughter.
Do
Because
you
they
think that
did,
love?
huh?
Do you think that he fell in love with her, or do you think that it was empathy for all the pain that she suffered through when she was younger?
I think it was both. I think if they had met under different circumstances, I think that they could have. I think it could have been because he was intrigued by her. He was challenged by her, and I think once he knew her story, like the part where, because when he would, before he knew who she was, and he would just go play Go with her, you could tell that he was her. He was intrigued and challenged by her mind, and he actually cared about her. So like I said, under different circumstances, I could see it, and you could, and they did have chemistry. Like they had mad chemistry. When Dr. Psycho was like, "Damn, if you weren't married, I'd be concerned." And then the part where the divorce was announced, and he was like, "Oh shit, like I better up my game or something, right?" I was like, "Oh shit, stay after Dr. Psycho's radar, because this motherfucker, that's a whole different story." But
I like to call him Doctor Psycho.
yeah, she actually tells him, she goes, "You're cute, but psycho." She goes, "You're a cute psycho." And everybody kept telling him he was fucking crazy. Like when all these different people are telling you the same thing, it's you. You can imagine that there's some truth in that. Um, but yeah, so I was like, there was a part of me, there really was a part of me, um, that was kind of hoping he would be in game, but I think he was one of the most interesting characters. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and how things with K dramas are not always quite what they seem. I'm sorry, I do not know why my phone is going off. Um, but it goes back to why they're not always quite what they seem, because just from how he was introduced, like you think, oh, he's this shallow, rich dude who married Young Jin, so he has to be an asshole. And to the extent of that, he's always been rich. He doesn't take shit. He owns his own company, one of the biggest construction companies in the country. You know, from that standpoint, yeah, he was no nonsense. So you're thinking that if he's married to Young Jun, and he knows that she's shallow, he knows who she is to an extent. You're thinking that once he finds out, like, A, does he already know who she was and what she's about? And then B, once he finds out, once you realize he does it, it's like, okay, once he finds out, I was thinking, oh God, he's going to help her cover this up. Like he's going to join her in her torment. That's what I thought. Did
Really?
you think? I
No,
did. I
I
did.
no, I didn't. So
Initially, that's what I thought before you got to know him more, just because of like where she goes, why did you marry me? And he's like, because you were you were the one that was in like the least amount of clothes or something, you know? And it was like, and just how he was introduced, where he and Yojin seemed to be, or Yojin seemed to be in perfect lockstep, like she had met her other half. I kind of thought once, but then once you got to know him more, I was glad that he didn't. Like, there's a part of me at some point that's still waiting for him to turn. But once you realized what was going on and who he was, like, to me, that was one of, I loved the way that they wrote his character. Like, because for a moment, you have to admit, you kind of thought, damn, like she married someone who was almost like her.
I never thought that.
And I thought, and the only reason I thought she didn't marry Jae is because he was richer than Jae. You know, he had more prestige than Jae. But yeah, I thought that. You never did?
No, I never thought that. So like I didn't think that I thought it was more the prestige because when Moon says that he is her shining star and he was like and she was like can't you admit that, and the look on his face says yes I can, like he was the star for Yeonjin,
Mm-hmm.
and but I think that her perfect match was Jae. And I do agree with you that the reason why she did not marry Jae is because I think one, her mother would never have allowed it, and she followed what her mother told her to do. And two was that he was richer than Jae was. He was richer. He had more prestige. It was like the ultimate notch on her belt to marry him because he probably was one of the richest men in the country at the time, at least in Seoul. Um, but I never thought that he would help her cover it up. And the reason why is he went, when, oh my God, who asked? When Jae asked Ye Jung, the one with all the plastic surgery and everything like that, like, like how is Yeonjin's husband? And she said, like, oh, well, I mean, he's kind of like an asshole. But she was like, but I don't really think he's an asshole. I think it's just because he's grown up always telling people what to do. Like it's not like he was Jae on Jae chose to be an asshole. It was like people take it off as he's an asshole, but he's actually not an asshole. He's actually a pretty cool dude. It's just he's also really, really rich. He knows he's really rich. He knows what he's worth. And so he don't gotta take nobody's shit. So like he'll give it to you directly because he know he can just pay you off if he needs to.
Yeah.
And it's
Go ahead.
different type of it was just a different type of asshole. So I took that as it said a lot about his personality without before like the whole thing dropped with his wife. Like as soon as she said that, I was just like, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense. I was thinking in my head, I was just like, he's actually a really, really good guy. He's a really, really great guy. And I think he married his wife for shallow reasons as well. And I think that like marrying her for shallow reasons, it was like, did I think that he was going to force it on her for her to acknowledge her wrong? No, not necessarily. I didn't think that. But did I think that he was going to cover it up for her? I don't know. Like it just didn't seem his personality. Like he seemed like a really good guy who was just extremely rich. So he just
Yeah.
acted a little bit because he was rich.
Yeah. The more you got to know him, I came to that conclusion. But when we were first introduced to him, before we knew much about him, and he comes across as that rich, always been rich asshole. Like I knew why she didn't marry Jae, but I'm like, oh, okay, she found someone else who, like, you didn't realize. I didn't realize at the time, from our first introduction to him and their relationship, just how much of a mask she wore around him. And then once you start seeing, even before we got to know more about him, you see her still cheating and sleeping with Jae. It's like, oh, okay, so maybe he's not. But there are times when before we really got to know, I'm like, because of the wealth, because of the power, because of how embarrassing it would be if it came out. And yes, um, that's where I thought the cover up would come in. And I'm so glad that that was not the case. Like, I love the way that they wrote him. Even at that point after he started to find out the truth and he knew all of it. Well, yeah, and he goes, I'm not leaving. And she goes, are you leaving? And he goes, no. And it's like, how much of a glutton for punishment? He stresses, not yet. And he goes, I can't quite put why. And you realize the reason why he couldn't leave just yet is because he was not leaving without the most precious thing to him in that marriage, and that was his daughter. Regardless of what anyone said, Sok was his daughter, and that, I think, was what was his sticking point. How is he going to get out of that relationship, that marriage with his daughter? But yeah, I love the character of Do-Eung, and I think in a different life, next lifetime, like Erykah Badu, or a different life, under different circumstances, that they may have had something. And I also loved how she took really good care the more she got to know him and Yasol, because she went in and with that take no prisoners type of attitude, and you just knew that, especially from her first meeting with Yasol, when she's wearing the exact same shoes that Young Jin had. And initially the way that she's kind of rough with Yasol, just in the way she talks to her, like trying purposely not to get too close to her because she knew she was going to blow up her world. And I love the more that she got to know Yasol by being her teacher, and the more she became friends with her father through Go and all of this other stuff, how she did not, how she more or less set it up so that Young June would have to destroy herself rather than her destroying him. Because when he asked her, why didn't you just go directly after Yasol? You had that. And she goes, because I realized how much it would have hurt you, And when at the end, when she apologizes to Yasol and said, I'm truly sorry. I hope you can forgive me because I owe you an apology. And you knew the girl was too young to know what she was talking about. But in later years, you could see her, as she found out more about what happened to her mom, what would understand. And, and the part where Yasol tells her mom, I'm no longer proud of you. I don't want to be a newswoman anymore, or a weather woman anymore. I was like, gut. But does she really feel that? So, speaking of the cute Psycho, did you like Dr. Psycho?
Not really. And it's
So
not.
were you
I
okay?
think he fit. Like, okay, I liked him for the part that he played in Her Revenge. I think he played her executioner very well. And I love that he was like, no questions asked. What you need me to do, I will do. Like, I'm going to help you. And he actually like stuck to it. I love how like she gained her circle without, because she fought against it. She didn't want a circle, but she still got a circle anyways. And that's where you see her start to actually enjoy life in a way with her circle. But so I liked him playing her executioner. I didn't necessarily feel that they fit when it came to the romance aspects of it, of that connection. Like I didn't think necessarily that it fit. I think that they can be the absolute best of friends. But I guess, a couple that revenge together stays together. But I think that they would be the absolute best of friends. I agree with you that I do think that she had way more chemistry with well, you didn't say this, but I'm saying it. She had way more chemistry with Do-Eung, and their vibe was just different but I think it would be too intense for her anyway. So maybe that's why, it was never an option, because I think they would have been too intense together. He would have made her like fully expose herself, and she wasn't about that life. But so no, Dr. Psycho, I liked his role in the story, but at the same time, I wasn't a fan of the romance. Like, they could have left that off.
Yeah, I'm with you. I still, so okay. So I wasn't wrong with thinking that there was a part that where Do Young could have maybe should have been in game or whatever. But I agree with you. It's my watch for some reason. It got turned on. But uh, so Dr. Psycho, yes, Do-Young should have been in game. He I think he came to understand her. So I don't think he would have made her fully expose herself. I think she found herself changing. He was part of the circle that had her changing, because like I said, she changed her plan once she met him. Because she was fully okay with taking him down too. Um, and I think she wanted to see what type of person that Yo Jin married, like who would marry this bitch. And I think um I think she came to care for him because at the end, um, I was hoping like when she left, when she left him after they spent that one perfect day or night together on the pier, I was like, please don't make her go jump. I thought she was heading to a plane. I thought she was getting on a plane to Heathrow. I was like, yeah. So but yeah, Dr. Psycho was a good ride or die as far as being the executioner and doing exactly what she needed him to do and being that person, no questions asked. Him, like I said, he and Mrs. Kane were both the epitome of ride or die, perfect ride or dies. Um, and Dr. Psycho played his part well. The drug that he put her on, Jin, when she came and she started confessing, that's propofol. When she's like, how much did you give me? What was I on? What did I say? And the way he played her. And he was kind of spooky because I said in my mind, if Moon had been in her right mind, Dr. Psycho, all the red flags would have been going off on that crazy motherfucker because he was a social psychopath all rolled up into one with serial killer tendencies. And I'm like, there's no way that one dude, I was like, okay, so maybe that shit had always been underneath the surface, and when his dad died, it gave him a reason to lean into the darkness.
Oh my
Oh
God.
boy, that's what I'm saying. Not all that could have just been unleashed when his dad died. Like, because if so, that was a whole lot of trauma. And I get the way he died was tragic and heartbreaking and traumatic. But I'm like, God dang, that all could not have just been because his dad died the way he did. Like,
Yes,
homeboy
it
had been.
does. Because the guy had no remorse, none. Like
I get that. I get that. I'm not.
like stabbed his dad in the throat and watched him bleed out with a smile on his face.
I get
And then
that.
it was like, yes, get the noodles. I was just like, oh my God, you're fucking crazy. Like, yeah, he broke. He deserved to break. I was just like, oh my God. But I love the ending. The ending, I was just like, go for it.
But yeah, so Dr. Psycho. And God, what did you think when her mom came back? Oh, oof.
I mean, granted, at that point, Yunjin was trying to use whatever she had at her disposal, and she was using what worked last time. What she doesn't realize is it worked not because you got them two in a room and that's how it ended up. It worked because you paid off her mom and her mom signed a form. Like, that's how it worked. She went behind her back, but you were trying to get her mom in front of her to scare her into like running away. And I think she used the wrong she just used the wrong path. Because you could clearly see like this woman is determined. If she's determined, how crazy mama ain't gonna do shit for you. But
She
her
ran
mom,
all right. She ran straight to Dr. Psycho and left her mama in that apartment.
yeah, you know. And it's crazy because she could have hid because her mom never would have been able to find her.
With
You
Dr.
know,
Psycho.
with him because like her mom said, I can just go get a sub document and the county will always tell me where you are. And it's like, no, they won't. Not if she don't put her name on that lease. I said, you must not realize who she with because he's extremely rich. But yeah, so I think like her mom, I do think the actress played her role so amazingly well. Like, it was so good. I was just like, this bitch. I said, oh, you are horrible, horrible human being like the rest of them. Like, you don't give two fucks. Like, damn, like this girl was raising herself as a teenager because you were nowhere to be found, sleeping around and all this other stuff that you were doing, and then sold her out for a paint for money, and didn't even worry about what happened to her child once she sold her out. Like, she just sold her out and just went about her business and was like, you on your own, like, deal with it. But I think the actress did a phenomenal job on believing me, on making me believe, like, yo, bitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her mom was her kryptonite because you could still see the trauma. And I think part of her, it was still like, but this is my mom. I know who this bitch is, but she's still my mom. Um, up until the apartment was on fire and her mom was like, I should have never had you, and just said all of that horrible shit. And I was like, okay. So, because I was like, nah, you better than me. I would have let that bitch burn. Um,
And the thing is, like, I guess I was the only one that got a different vibe from those scenes with her and her mom. Like, because I felt like she was playing her mother. Like, as soon as she saw that her mom came back and she put her in that apartment, she was playing her. Like, she was trying to figure out, how can I destroy this woman and get her fully out of my life? And when she found out that she was taking the brides, like, I thought when she walked into the apartment after she found out about those bribes, like, it was a wrap. Like, I think after that, like, she played her mother from then on. It wasn't, I don't know. I don't know. Like, and granted, I know, like, she went back to the car and she was like crying and everything, but like, I just felt like the whole time her mind was spinning. Like, it didn't, I don't know. I just feel like her mom got played and she didn't even realize it. Like, yeah, you affected her. She did get affected, but her mind was still working on how to get rid of that woman from when she saw that she took the bribes, because she was going to mess up her revenge plot. And when you try to mess up her revenge plot, you got to be taken out. And so that's where she started with the, how am I going to take this woman out? And I think, like, when she hit her and she made her bleed, like, yeah, I don't necessarily know if the kryptonite, because I don't think necessarily her mom brought her down any to a lower level at all. Like, I think she stayed at the same level she was at when her mom showed up. She had some emotional moments, but I think ultimately, like, her revenge plot went off the same way, and she just included her mom in that whole situation.
I think, yeah, it's not like her mom foiled the plot. She threw a monkey wrench in it for sure because she had not intended on seeing her. But I think her mom brought up a lot more emotions and a lot more of, and kind of threw her off her game a little bit because, um, she didn't foresee getting fired from the school because her mom was accepting bribes on her behalf. So her mom was always screwing her over. I think from the moment her mom showed up, the one reason why she did not kick her out immediately is because it was keep your friends closer and keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. So it was that type of thing. Like, as long as she knew where her mother was, so to speak, um, she had some control over the situation, but her mom was definitely a wild card. And I think that there was still a part of her trying to figure out, I agree with you. She was trying to figure out how to get rid of her once and for all, because when she said it, like, you can't hide from me. It's like, fuck, So ultimately, the way she played her and got her committed to the loony bin or the drug rehab or whatever it was, where she was the only one that could sign her out and get her out of there. I was like, oh yeah, that was genius. That was a stroke of genius. But I still would have let the bitch burn in a hibachi fire in a barbie in her, she would have been barbecued fucking with me. I'm sorry. That's horrible, but yeah. She would have been barbecued. Um, what were some of your favorite takedowns? Or
Takedowns? Yeah, I wrote down favorite scenes, not necessarily takedowns.
okay, what were some of your favorite scenes?
Um, I like the scene in the gym when Dong-Eun, like, shows up as an adult. when Yeonjin is winning the award and they're just kind of chilling in the gym and reminiscing, and she walks in, and then when she's getting the award, she waits till everybody stops clapping and then she starts clapping again. I like that scene. I like the scene where she shows her scars. It was a very intense scene, but it played a very important role. When she showed it to Dr. Psycho, is what we're calling him. And she also, when she took her jacket off, when she goes to meet with Do-Young. And I thought, and then the empathy, and you can just see, like, they were like, oh my God, the pain. Like, it wasn't like pity or, oh, like it was more on the pain this woman must have went through, and it made them even more reserved on helping her, or at least like letting her do what she needed to do rather than trying to stop her. Another one was when Jae-Joon got his ass kicked. Loved it. There's a YouTube video, right, of someone who did black dubs of that fight scene. And so they did the dubs as if with black people translation. It's hilarious. I gotta find the video, I'll send it to you. But it's just absolutely hilarious on like the dubs that they give to Do-Young on what he says to Jae-Joon in that scene. And then another one of my favorite scenes is when Miss Kang slapped the shit out of Yeonjin, which she deserved, because she deserved those slaps. And she said, how dare you use my daughter? You're a mother too. And then you see her husband was at the top of the stairs listening to the whole thing. So it's kind of like the point where he was just like, oh, fuck you. Like, you done. Like, I'm done. Like, no, if you're not going to apologize and feel some type of guilt, like, we can go. And she was given so many opportunities to admit her guilt. Just say, I'm sorry. Just accept some type of punishment. You probably would have got like probation or something, and just move on. You still would have had a rich man, even if you didn't necessarily have your career that you really didn't do yourself, because other people did the job for you. But yeah, so those are some of my favorite scenes to watch.
Yeah, I went with the takedowns. I had some, gosh, I'm trying to think if I had just a favorite scene, but I think they were all kind of tied into the takedowns. Like Yeonjin's takedown was priceless. Um, I kind of talked about when it started coming to light and how Soul told her, that she wasn't proud of her and didn't want to be like her anymore. And I remember one particular scene, or moment when Do-Young asked her, he said something, he's like, your daughter's fine, by the way. Like, do you even care? Like, is she anything more than a trophy to you? And it was like, wow. And, you know, I loved how her mom got caught up in it too, because that bitch, her hands were way dirty. And I love how she played them with the name tag. That was priceless. That was fucking genius. And they went through all that trouble. She goes, this can't even be used anymore. Like, oh, damn. She's like, it wasn't actually found after seeing, like, when she gave him the explanation of why the name tag was so insignificant at this point. But and gosh, her mom was a piece of work. Like, Yojin's mom, she was a bitch. And I love how they also got her to do the dirty work for like killing Mr. Kong, that asshole. And it kept Mrs. Kong's hands clean, and it kept Moon's hands clean. And Miss Kong, kudos to her. She deserves an Emmy for her role of the grieving widow, because she had me going there for a moment. I'm like, damn, I know grief is a powerful thing, but is she mourning the loss of the years? Because there were moments like outside the police station, I'm like, is she laughing? Is she crying? Is that like, I'm so sad, I think I have to laugh moment? Or is it just like like, is she being careful because she knows their cameras? But I'm like, did I misunderstand this? Like, what? And but then on the boat, when she actually had him out there and she started talking to him, and she's like, I hope you freeze in this ocean. I was like, oh, okay, there you go. It's like, ooh, had me worried there for a moment. Um, but yeah, so I love the way ultimately she got that, and like you said, there were so many moments that Yeonjun could have told the truth. Like when it first came out, she could have done the mea culpa. Yes, I'm sorry, I was a bully. She kind of did it a little bit because she was forced into it, but then, she could have even told Do-Young the truth. But when she had the opportunity, she tried to turn it back on Moon. So she got exactly what she deserved. Um, and when she was in prison, you got the feeling like Mama didn't want to talk to her. Mama was like, "Fuck you!" Like Mama straight up act like she had no idea who she was. Like she didn't spend hours in birth with her, years raising her. And then when they said, "Hey, what's the weather like today?" I'm like, "Oh, Bertha got you on a leash. You ain't a bully now." Um, so I love that. The way she took down the perv teacher, that was genius. And
Yeah.
she got Jae involved. And so you're thinking, why would she go to Jae instead of Do-Young? But it was part of the setup of how she knew Jae was going to be making a play for Ha Sol. So it's like, yeah, let Ha Sol see who he is. Like, start letting the child naturally turn against him. But that was fucking genius. I love that. Um, and the eye drops, like, and what else? Yeah, the eye drops and the car accident at the end, like the whole setup. And Do-Young finally got his hands dirty. Like it was uh like at the end because who it was Do-Young that pushed him, wasn't it?
He had the same time.
Okay, I just want to make sure we were on the same page. It was Do-Young that pushed him. Like, I gotta make one stop before I go to Heathrow. I gotta check on this final construction site, and it was genius because they're never gonna find his body ever. Um, so yeah, that was pretty cool. Um, the woman, the plastic surgery, the Barbie, the dumb Barbie who didn't realize that she was just as much of a victim of their bullying as everyone else.
Oh, she realized it. She was a bully by survival.
Um, I Yeah, but was she really? Because I'm like, I think her problem was okay, survival. But I also think she got greedy. Like
She got what?
she got greedy. Like you should have just married the little sweaty dude, the sweaty rich dude who
She'd
was a
always
mama.
been in love with Jejun.
I know, but it was like, dude, do you really think all of a sudden he loves you back? Like he was just looking for someone to help him get his daughter. And,
Yeah.
and
She was willing to step up because hey, look, when you love somebody, even if you know it's not like pure reasons why, you're gonna take a shot because you thinking that, okay, so when we finally together, I'm gonna make you fall in love with me. Like, and that's probably where her mindset was. She was like, okay, like I'm gonna make him fall in love with me. He's with me now. He's no longer with Young Jin. He turned his back on her. He ignoring her phone calls. Like that was her mindset. And I thought like I thought like she was in love with this dude, and everything that she did was to get Jejun. And he knew that and played her all the time. But she was gone. She was fully in love.
yeah. So I guess her punishment was just collateral damage. Because the crazy Sarah, that bitch, like she, and I was like, damn, is she sober? Like she was just like, I don't. I'm like, you see all the cops and the news people around, and you just go straight up. And she went straight for the jugular, and she went all the way through. She got all the way through to where she pierced the vocal cord, and I'm just like, oh. So, I was like, so I'm gonna ask, did Plastic Barbie deserve that? Was her takedown just, or do you think she was just collateral damage?
Oh, she was gonna get taken down too. It wasn't like she was gonna be spared.
I know she wasn't going to be spared, but I wonder what was in store. Was her takedown going to be just as bad as everyone else's?
Yes.
Oh yeah, because when she went to the hospital, she said that's probably what saved her.
Yeah. She was just gonna have just as bad because she was all up in that. It doesn't matter if you were more of a bystander, you helped them. So her takedown was gonna be just as bad as the rest of them. And yeah, so getting stabbed in the jugular, please. Like
Yeah,
you can't speak, but she ain't gonna bother you no more. She gonna
she
be like,
lucky
you
she
punched enough.
she lucky she survived that. She didn't because usually you bleed out, but I guess if they would have taken the pencil out,
Remember when
um,
the cop ran in and he said, "Don't pull it out, don't pull it out."
yeah, if they would have taken the pencil out, she would have bled out. But yeah, so I'm just saying I didn't feel bad. Like I wasn't like I was kind of hoping she wasn't. God, this makes me horrible. See, this is one of those moments where you're like, please don't let me burn. I'm not a bad person. This is just a TV show. But yeah, I didn't feel bad for her. I don't know if that was meant to cause sympathy, but I was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. But we kind of already talked about Sarah already. And then her, and like I said, the blonde hair didn't bother me. It was funny how Barbie, I can't remember her name, so I'm just gonna call her Barbie. How Barbie commented, "You and this bad blonde hair," and but it fit her, just her being an artist and quirky and who she was, and I think at one point she had blue streaks in her hair, so the blonde it didn't bother me. It's just like, oh God, you went extreme with the blonde hair job. Um, and then the dude who she recruited to help her at first, the one that Yojin quote unquote murdered.
Young O.
Um, what was his name?
Young O.
Yeah, Young O. I didn't miss him, but it was funny how he had Sarah on tape doing things, and she couldn't remember, but I loved all of her takedowns. Like they were all incredible. Um, did you have a favorite character before we wrap this up, or anything else you want to mention that we may have glossed over?
Um, I would say surprisingly my favorite character, because I didn't think that they would turn out to be my favorite character. But surprisingly, like my favorite character was Do-Young. Because like I said, like how Barbie how Barbie described him was a perfect description. And when I took that in mind and when I actually was like, that yeah, I can see that. And then you realize he was a really, really great guy who just grew up really, really rich and knew his worth. And just knew like some problems you could just throw money at it because money always solves things, or makes it go away. So not necessarily a bad guy, just knew how to work society, based on his position and status. So I think like I really, really loved him. You said it before and I agree. Like he loved Yi Sol, like that was his pride and joy. Everything that he did was to protect her, to make sure that she had a safe environment. From the first scene where we see all of them together when she comes home, Yisol comes home, and Yunjin is smoking. And you could tell like he didn't approve of her smoking, but she's a grown ass woman. And but he stopped Yisol from seeing it, and he stopped Yisol from coming near her because she's gonna smell like smoke and everything like that. And then all the way up until the end scene where he comes to her soccer practice and he's calling her name and she doesn't turn around. And I think partly she doesn't hear him, but also I kind of felt like because at that moment when she turned around, it was usually Jejun who was like there, or something else was happening in her environment. But when she turns around and she sees her dad and she really sees him and she just like calls him out and like runs to him. And I was just like, oh, I said, oh yeah, Jejun, yeah, you ain't never getting that girl. Like he ain't
Yeah,
never gonna give up his daughter because he said you may not be mine to Yunjin, but Yi Sol is. And I was just like, yeah, because it doesn't matter. His mom made a big thing about that not being his real daughter. But you could tell he never would have told his mother. He never would have told his mom that that wasn't his daughter.
Yeah. And his mom, but I think it also kind of backfired because when she found out, I guess Jae-joon and Young Yi-sol, not Yi-sol, but Young Jin, they thought she would start negotiating right then and there about how are we going to do this? Nah, she just went off with the golf clubs. That made her go even more crazy. So, um, it was just like, yeah, but it didn't matter. Um, that wasn't his daughter. And when you kind of start figuring out even before they actually say it, when she has the same color blindness as Jae-joon, hopefully it doesn't morph into early onset glaucoma like he had to. But yeah. Um, so do you want there to be a second season?
Yes, I would like a part three. And the reason why I want a part three is because I think that another amazing story would be how they get back at the guy who killed the doctor's father. Because when she's about to jump off and kill herself, because she's finally, did what she came, what she stayed alive to do, and his mom comes and says, "Save my son. My son was your executioner." She basically said, "My son was your executioner, and I didn't say anything to him about that. I did not try to stop him. Now it's your time to be his." And basically his mom giving permission for her and her son to go after the guy who killed her husband. And so like when like she's thinking about it, and he didn't even think along the lines of how to get at that guy. He just tried to apply to the prison. But anyway, sorry. I'm just gonna get into that whole story. Sorry. But yes, I do think it should be a part 3 or season 2. And let's see a focus on how they get back at the guy who killed his father.
I agree with you. One of the things I also love about it is the whole Ocean's 11 of it, like the caper and the takedowns and that part. I
Oh
love
yeah.
that.
She
Um,
texted Miss Kong and was like, "Hey, I got a job for you."
yeah, and because Miss Kong, her daughter, she left her daughter in America to get the, and you could tell how much Miss Kong missed her daughter and Moon. And so as soon as she got the text and she put on that red lipstick, it was like at this point Miss Kong seems like she owns her own restaurant. She's free of the abusive husband, but it's like, oh, she missed being needed. She missed being Moon's second, and so I was like, yes, I would love to see how that all comes to be, how they pull it off. And Mama knows that old psycho, he ain't gonna stop. The letters and all of that kind of stuff. So, all right, I agree with you. I definitely want to see a part 3 or a second season, fully based on her being the doctor's executioner and how they take down. Oh boy, that would be awesome. Okay, now what do you think about? What are you rating it? How many popcorns are you giving?
All right. So I think this is one of the best dramas that I've seen. Not K-dramas, but one of the best dramas that I've seen on how the revenge plot worked. It never felt like it was cliche. It never felt like they were falling on stereotypes or anything like that. Like it was intense from beginning to end. I never lost interest in it. I watched it with the English dubs just so I can get through it. And then I went back and watched it with the actual original Korean audio with the subtitles because I wanted to focus on the acting as well, and it got better. I'm gonna say this, like I'm a part of the small group of people, but I like watching K-dramas in the original Korean audio because you really get to see the audio with the acting, and I think the acting even becomes more phenomenal when you do that than the English dub, because the English dub can kind of throw it off sometimes. So from all of that and just really enjoying it, staying in it from beginning to end, I am going to rate it. I rated it a little bit lower than what I originally thought, but I'm gonna rate it a 4.75. I really, really enjoyed this series. The 0.25 is because even after this, still not a fan of the lead actress. And she just, like when I look at her, the ensemble cast, phenomenal. But if it was just her to sell this series, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked if it was just her. She did not sell this series for me. It was the whole entire storyline and everything that goes into it. So for 4.75, I suggest everybody watch The Glory. It's a tough watch in the beginning with all the bullying scenes that are very intense, but actually really realistic on what actually goes on. But overall, you're going to enjoy it and you're going to stick to it. What about you, Eddie?
I give it a 4.5. And it is one of the best. It is one of the best dramas. One of the best things I've watched on TV. I'm getting to the point where I don't separate. Where K-drama to me is just another genre of something, just kind of like K-pop, where it's just all TV and movies and all of that kind of stuff. So it is one of the best shows that I've seen so far this year. And at this rate, it will probably make the end of the year list. But yeah, 4.5 stars. Like I said, I don't know enough about the actors and actresses to say. I think that she was a bit stiff in some points, but I don't know if that's her acting or if that was just or if that's the character. But I did love the. You said that was the acting. I love the ensemble like you did, and yeah, when I don't have to get through a K drama, I will do, or if I'm not doing something else, I generally love watching them with the subtitles. I think that's why the subtitles just stay on anyway, and I'll do the Korean. But when I have to get through it, I just turn on the dubs, and then I still leave it. I still leave on the subtitles. Don't ask me why. It's so weird, but that's just me. Anyway, that does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Please be sure to like, listen, follow, comment anywhere. And I mean, absolutely anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, your other favorite podcast, because we know we are your top favorites. You can also keep up to date on the latest in entertainment and pop culture news, as well as other amazing kernels of pop culture goodness at the popcornwinddown.com. That's it. That's the plug. Pop it up. Thank you as always. And be sure to join us next week when we review John Wick 4. So excited. Even though, did you know the movie is damn near 3 hours long?
I'm for it. I am for it. It's John Wick, Keanu Reeves. Come on now.
All right. So until next time, they say it doesn't seem like 3 hours. Say it goes by really fast. So until next time. Yeah, because he's going to be Wickham. Okay. Until next time, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Peace.